I've always thought that humans forget very easily. Maybe it's part of the instant gratification of recent decades. We are in a constant search for that addictive feeling of joy that arrives every time we experience something new. Once it comes, that familiar emotion you feel in your chest begins to fade, much faster than it took to arrive. Something very similar happens when we reach a goal. The joy we feel almost seems fleeting when compared to all the time it took to get there. Many people start labeling us as ungrateful for not appreciating more deeply what we've achieved. But I tend to believe that is not that we are ungrateful, it is that we simply forget quickly. And in doing so, we lose something very important on the horizon, the act of gratitude. We leave suspended in nothingness something essential for personal growth, remembering everything it took to get here, to this moment. At some point, today was a dream. At some point, this day was part of a visualization, part of a prayer, part of a longing. Graduating from high school, earning your college degree, getting that promotion at work, or even getting the job. The words of pride from our parents, our partners, our friends, all of these are incredibly powerful feelings, yet so ephemeral, that by the following week, the joy and fulfillment of reaching that goal have already faded. I always try to remind myself that the present I'm living in was once a goal I deeply wanted to reach. Or maybe you're not there yet. But when you look back, you realize you're much closer than you were before. You achieved small goals that made you happy at the time, and suddenly they've been left behind in a pile of memories, good and bad, without value or purpose. But the truth is that these invaluable memories are the very ones that can bring back that same fleeting feeling of joy. Reminiscences of yesterday are what make your present extraordinary. And remembering these moments is vital to keep going. Vital for those days when you don't want to do anything. Those days when continuing feels heavy and overwhelming. When you've tried so hard that you don't understand why you haven't reached what you want. The truth is, it is not that simple. Remembering those moments and feeling that same emotion again is something that has to be practiced, almost like a sport. Being able to dive into a memory and suddenly feel that emotion rise through your body is ideal for getting through your day. But like most things, it's much easier said than done. One exercise I came across recently was writing down some of the goals you've already achieved and keeping them somewhere accessible. That way, when you need them, you can return to them more easily. The day you received your first job offer, the day you graduated, or the day you completed a sporting event. These are milestones that shaped who you are today. But it can also be something much simpler, like the first time you gave your mom flowers and the immense joy you felt when you saw her warm smile. There are also special moments with family worth remembering. Spontaneous moments where talking about a not-so-distant past and bringing forgotten memories back can feel almost like living them again. Not long. Remember that even if you haven't achieved all your goals yet, you are living through priceless experiences. In the middle of daily chaos, you forget everything it took to get here. But reminiscing about the journey is, without a doubt, the fuel for the most ordinary and unnoticed days. For those days when you'd rather stay in bed and let the hours pass, with very little discipline and absolutely no motivation. For those days, it's important to evoke those memories and be grateful for the present. The reason we forget our victories isn't random. Our minds are constantly scanning for what's wrong. The same mechanism that makes us overlook today's blessings is the one that convinces us tomorrow will end in disaster. Sometimes I feel like my mind loves playing with the sad ending. If I were a Disney screenwriter, they'd probably fire me if they put me in charge of the main storyline. If I put everything I think onto paper, it wouldn't be a cartoon. It would be more like a drama film. With no real control over my mind, my thoughts drift. Not toward the clear path I truly want, but towards side roads with endings and scenarios I could have never anticipated. A classic example? The dreams that reflect this unfounded negativity. Like showing up naked on the day of an important exam. Why would I be naked in a public place when I've never even felt the need to be naked on a nudist beach? Without a doubt, my awesome and creative brain joins the trend of showing me the most absurd ending. Without meaning to, we tend to imagine the tragic outcome. The image floats above everything else. Unstoppable. Impossible to slow down. We don't want our minds to go there, but once we see it clearly in our heads, it feels inevitable. Some people like holding this worst-case scenario card in their hand. The theory is that if they're prepared for the worst outcome from the beginning, then, if it happens, the impact won't be as strong. If it comes, they're ready. But how can you spend so much of your day thinking about the most adverse ending? You could even argue that by visualizing it so vividly, you're attracting it. Let's say you're planning a trip to another country. The worst outcome would be the plane crashing and never arriving. Why would I want to focus on a tragedy? This practice is not, and never will be, my favorite. And I admire those who choose to make it part of their daily lives. But to me, it's like walking around with an umbrella on a sunny day. No rain in the forecast, just in case it pours. It probably won't happen, but you're prepared. To me, this is a practice that, even when done consciously, ends up self-sabotaging the arrival of our happy ending. Another common example these days is the infamous imposter syndrome. And I say that because it's something I struggle with. Even though my performance at work is, let's say, above average, I always have this intrusive thought that it could be my last day. Tomorrow, my boss will call me in with that somber tone and the unwanted news. Without reason or warning, today will be my last day. I cannot tell you why, but you won't be coming back tomorrow. And that thought can loop in your head, even when you're fairly certain that, for now, your position is indispensable. Because somewhere an AI is probably waiting for my one big mistake to take my job. Then there's everyday life. If you feel sudden abdominal pain, it must be appendicitis, even though there are a million harmless reasons for a random stomachache. Or that headache that won't go away for days. It's probably not a terminal illness. It's more likely your dehydrated body reminding you that alcohol is definitely not a substitute for water. But of course, the first thought is the dramatic negative one. I've read and listened to several interviews about this. Negative thinking can come from parents, from family members, from the environment around us. We have many different places where we can learn these behaviors. Thanks to these environment that trained you, to all the situations you faced for years, you developed an incredible skill. The skill of thinking negatively. The good news? It can be controlled. Just like you stopped sucking your thumb or biting your nails, you can control how many garbage thoughts enter your mind. The bad news? Like everything else, it's a skill. Controlling where your thoughts travel is something you have to actively train. There are many techniques to manage these thoughts. But let's pause for a second. What makes you think negatively? If everything is connected to your environment, then what, or who, is directing your mind toward a dark place? Because honestly, I don't want to think that way. That's when you have to evaluate, what are you consuming? What's on your phone when you wake up and open TikTok or Instagram? I imagine you might know about the latest medical breakthroughs, peace treats, or the animals saved from extinction. Or maybe it's the opposite. You're watching updates on wars around the world, documentaries about serial killers, or hateful comments directed at some artist over something trivial. For me, that's the easiest place to start. The content you consume. The environment around you. Yes, it might even mean distancing yourself from John, that friend stuck in an existential crisis and negative spirals that can easily pull you in. If your environment becomes positive and hopeful, that negative thinking skill you developed starts to weaken, and you begin strengthening a new one, the ability to expect the best outcome, to believe that the alternatives are good, that there is nothing to fear, that things can work out. This time it wasn't my grandmother who said something wise, it was Bob Proctor. I listened to a podcast where he was being interviewed about fear. And the phrase that impacted me the most was this: faith and fear both demand you believe in something you cannot see. You choose. So maybe it really is about choosing. Do you think with faith or do you think with fear? When an intrusive negative thought tries to attack, remembering that phrase feels like raising a shield. It gives me a second to think clearly and decide, am I going to believe with faith or believe with fear? And you? Which one do you choose?